Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now you can probably tell by the cloudy sky above me and a bit of breeze in the trees, it's a little bit cooler today. So today is a perfect day to be getting new solar panels installed, getting systems set up before the sun breaks through and it turns to 33 degrees again. Today we're going to be installing a brand new plug-in solar system. And unlike other plug-in solar systems, everything you need for this comes in the box. So today we're going to bring the thunder. No, not that kind of thunder, but Thunder Energy Systems Storm. Yeah, they never really cooperate. Now before we get started, I just want to be very clear. Thunder Energy Systems provided this whole kit to me at no cost for review purposes. We're going to install this system and we're going to run it for an entire year. The system is going to output data every single day, which will show up in my dashboard on my website, so you can see exactly how this system is performing. Thunder Energy haven't asked for any review, they haven't even seen this video before it goes live, and everything you're going to hear about it is going to be my thoughts and what I think about this system. So before we get into what comes in the box, let's go down the side of the house and let me show you exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to install it. Okay, so down at the side of my house, if I flip the camera around, you'll see we have this sort of little alleyway. Obviously heat pump, and next to the heat pump we have a consumer unit. And for those that watched the video the other day, you'll know that in advance of this project, I had an outdoor rated socket installed, and inside the consumer unit here, which I've broken the lid on, is a bidirectional RCBO, and I also have my Shelly in here, which monitors this circuit. So not only will we be able to obviously use the app from the microinverter to see how much energy it thinks it's producing, we'll be able to monitor it and correlate the data with the Shelly. Now this was all installed by qualified electricians, and for those that know, I use a company called Artisan Electrics here in Cambridge. Really great bunch of guys, came, did an amazing job. Everything is ready for me to start installing the system up on the wall behind me. So the plan is to install 4 solar panels on the wall here. So flat facing with an almost south, but southeast-ish kind of facing. We'll put 2 down just above the bottom of the panel, will be just above the consumer unit, same here, and then another panel up there and another panel on the other side of the heat pump pipes. Now the reason for putting them around here is on days when it's not overcast like today, this wall gets an awful lot of sun. In fact, this wall gets so much sun that this camera that I have up here occasionally trips out because it is too hot, because it's in direct sunlight. Now I do have to keep an eye on, as you can see behind me here, these bushes from my neighbour. I will trim these back as they sort of come over the fence, but they generally don't block, certainly in the summer, any sunlight from hitting this wall. Now in the winter we may have to do a bit of trimming just to get maximum sun onto the panels. Anyway, let's head back around the corner and we'll take a look at what comes in the box. So let's start with the panels themselves. So in the kit you get 4 of these. These are 180 watt, very lightweight, flexible solar panels. In fact, they're so lightweight, I'm going to use 2 fingers and I'm going to pick it up. Now, just to put it into perspective, all 4 of these panels together weigh less than one of those panels you see behind me on the fence. Now that's a 450 watt panel, so 4 of these together gives you 710 watts, and they're half the weight of one of those panels. So it means installing these on a balcony or somewhere where you don't have the structural rigidity of a roof makes them a really good option. Now they are flexible panels, are really lightweight, and they use TOPCon cells here, which should improve the reliability. The energy density of these cells is quite good, so that means that they should last a long time. And this has always been one of the challenges with the flexible panels, is they generally have a shorter lifespan. But this whole kit comes with a 10-year warranty, so you don't need to worry about it. These, I think, are going to do just fine around the corner of the house on the wall. Now, the first thing you might have noticed here is they don't come with an MC4 connection. So they have this connector here, which we'll come on to in a little while, because this makes installing the system really easy, especially if you're really not into crimping MC4 connectors. So again, you get 4 of these in the box, and we're going to install these in a 2-2 configuration on the side of the wall. We already have reinforced mounting holes in them, and that means that it's going to be really simple for me just to stick a wall anchor in, stick a bolt through, and screw it down onto the wall. Now, as I said before, everything you need to install this system comes in the box. And even to the point where they've, because of current legislation and plug-in solar isn't properly authorized yet, you get a fused spur. We're not going to be using that today. We're going to be putting a plug on the end of this, so I will have to go and buy a plug from B&Q. But everything else you need comes in the box. So let's start with the microinverter itself. Now, you might recognize this from previous videos. I should do that in a Troy McClure accent from The Simpsons.
I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such movies as Cry Yuma and Here Comes the Coast Guard.
Now, I'm going to look at the back here because I still can't remember the name. It is the HMS 800W-2T. So this is the Wi-Fi version of the microinverter. So this is exactly the same one that we looked at the other day when we did the comparison between the 3 microinverters. So again, this isn't manufactured by Thunder Energy. They package a really high quality off-the-shelf microinverter in the kit. Then we get everything else. So we have a stand. So if you don't want to mount this on the wall, which is what I'm going to be doing, there is a small stand here. We won't actually be using that as part of that installation. We get all the cabling we need. So we get the Hoymiles connector to connect to the end of the microinverter there, and obviously this would go into the fused spur, but we will be putting a plug on this. We get some tools. So these are for undoing the connectors on the end if we need to change the washers for weatherproof seals, or one of the nicest MC4 tools I've ever come across. Normally they are the cheapest pieces of plastic that the manufacturer can put in the box. This is a nice metal one. This will probably be going on my key ring because these things are incredibly useful. If you're unplugging and plugging solar panels all the time, keeping one of these nearby, really good idea, and nice to see a nice high quality one. We then have a whole load of fixings, which, much as I'm glad they put them in a box, I'm not going to use any of these. These are designed if you want to mount into fence panels. Let me just open them up for a second and show you one of the fixings. So again, these panels are really lightweight. They're only 3.5 kilos per panel. So you can screw these into a wooden fence post, and there is a little sort of carabiner style clip there. You press down, hook it into the panel itself, let it go, and it's spring loaded and it pops back up. Because we're going to be doing a much more permanent installation, I'm actually going to be putting mounts into the walls and screwing the panels in. We get a whole load of zip ties, and then we come on to the cables. So if you remember when we looked at the panels, they weren't standard MC4s on the end of them. So we have these connectors. These are J&I Icon. I don't know if this is actually a standard connector. I'll have to go and look that up. But you get 2 sets of these cables. So there are 2 connectors. So obviously one goes to the furthest away panel, to the nearest panel, and then that turns into a standard MC4. So 2 sets of those. Now, there may be a situation, depending on how you install this, where you need more distance between the MC4s and the microinverter. So that's where you may need to create a cable yourself or go and buy an off-the-shelf extension cable. But standard MC4s to standard MC4s, pretty cheap. You can get them on Amazon. So that's all the cabling and the hardware. Then we come on to the documentation pack. And there's just, you know, when somebody takes that little bit of extra care and you make you think, they really know what they're doing. So we get our installation manual. I would do the old joke and just throw it over my shoulder and say, nobody ever reads that, but I did actually read it. We get a set of electrical stickers, which by law, you have to have these placed on the unit. So there are details, so if another electrician comes on site, that they can see these and understand that this is a live system. And then, just because of UK legislation, there is a G98 compliance and notification guide. a really simple form to fill in, explains exactly what you've got to put in here. It's already pre-filled in with all the details of the microinverter, the manufacturer's name and everything like that. So all you literally have to do is fill in your address and a wiring diagram that you can submit with that. So again, it walks you through everything you need to do to submit your G98 and be compliant. So that's everything that we have in the box. So I suppose all that's left to do, let's get this thing up on the wall and get it plumbed into the dashboard. Okay, so we're making a bit of progress. I've got 2 of the panels set on the wall. The comment I made earlier on about pre-made cabling, it's a great idea, but if it doesn't fit, it becomes a bit more of a problem. So I'm probably going to need to extend some of the MC4s to be able to reach the inverter. Now, I've got 2 of the panels up on the wall, but I'm under strict instructions from the CFO that I'm not to be going up and down the ladder while she's not in the house. So common sense needs to prevail. So I think what I'll do now is get the inverter installed. I'm just trying to find where is a nice location, sort of down here, and get all the cables run in. And then what I'll probably do is power the system up with just the 2 panels on, just to check everything's working. And then once the sun's gone back in, or later this evening, we'll get the 2 further panels mounted up the top. Okay, so I've got the inverter up and running. It's still an absolute mess with cables, and the panels are starting to produce. Now, steady yourself for this. We are seeing a 26.6 watts from 2 panels. But I mean, looking at the sky, it's not surprising. There is literally no sunlight, it's just ambient light right now. So good that we're seeing it on both ports. I'm actually looking in Home Assistant, and I can see about 28 watts across the 2 panels. Well, hopefully that'll increase once we get the next 2 panels up on the wall. But as I said earlier, I've got to wait until a supervising adult is available before I can go up the ladder. Okay, it's up, it's generating power, albeit not a lot because it's still a bit overcast, but the system is working, it's starting to gather data, and we'll plumb that through Home Assistant into my web dashboards. Now, there's a couple of things I'm not happy with. Certainly the cabling isn't going to pass the Chief Financial Officer's inspection. As you can see, the proprietary cabling, although very easy to set up, does make it a little bit difficult to do a tidy job. So the likelihood is I'm going to remove these proprietary cables, fit standard MC4s, and then I can run nice neat cabling down to the microinverter. As I say, the system is plugged in now to the waterproof socket here. RCBO in here, bidirectional, so shouldn't have any safety concerns there. And again, this cabling all just needs tidying up. So I think that's about it for this video. There is going to be a follow-up because we've got to pass the CFO's inspection. And I also want to go into a little bit more detail about how we're getting the data into the dashboard through Home Assistant, and give you some idea of what this will produce on a sunny day, because it doesn't look like we're getting any sunshine today. All that remains is for me to say thank you for clicking on this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if I'm lucky, I'll see you back here real soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.